In this video we're diving into the fascinating dynamic between Cloris Leachman and Betty White. Was it true rivalry or a cleverly disguised friendship? And that's just the beginning. We'll also uncover what truly earned Leachman her reputation as a comedic genius, and why she stood out in a golden age filled with unforgettable stars. At one point, someone jokingly remarked, "If I had your figure, I'd rule the world." It was a playful line, but it hinted at something real. During Hollywood's golden era, Leachman's beauty turned heads just as much as her talent. Even in her younger years, classmates couldn't help but envy her presence, and admirers were never in short supply. But while her looks opened doors, it was her sharp wit and fearless humor that kept her in the spotlight. Cloris Leachman wasn't just another actress, she was a force of nature in comedy. With a career spanning nearly 8 decades, she mastered the art of making audiences laugh, blending timing, expression, and bold character choices into something unforgettable. Her journey, however, was anything but easy. What many call overnight success only came after nearly 20 years of steady work across stage, television, and film. It wasn't until her 40s that she truly broke through, and when she did, she never looked back. Her role as Phyllis Lindstrom on The Mary Tyler Moore Show became iconic, showcasing her ability to bring humor and depth into a single performance. Around the same time, Hollywood began to recognize her brilliance on a larger scale. Then came her powerful performance in The Last Picture Show, a role that earned her an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress and proved her range extended far beyond comedy. But one of the most talked about aspects of her career remains her connection with Betty White. On screen, especially in The Mary Tyler Moore Show, their characters often clashed, creating the impression of rivalry. Years later, scripts would once again place them at odds, fueling speculation among fans. Were these tensions real or simply part of the performance? In truth, their relationship was far more layered. Both women were pioneers in television, navigating an industry that rarely made space for strong, comedic female leads. Their careers ran side by side for decades, occasionally competing for the same awards and recognition. Naturally, comparisons followed. Some believed there was tension, perhaps even concern about one outshining the other. Yet behind the scenes, there was also deep respect. Two seasoned performers who understood the challenges of staying relevant in a constantly evolving industry. Their chemistry, whether playful or confrontational, added something special to every project they shared. Cloris Leachman's story is one of persistence, transformation, and undeniable talent. She wasn't just funny, she was fearless, willing to take risks and redefine what it meant to be a comedic actress. And as we explore her life further, one question lingers. Was the rivalry real, or was it simply another brilliant performance in a career full of them? There was even a moment when she joked that Betty White might steal her title as the oldest contestant on a show. With perfect timing, Cloris fired back, "She just steals everything from me." It was classic Cloris Leachman, sharp, playful, and impossible to ignore. Off-screen she was just as captivating. Her personal life was as eventful as her career, including a long on-and-off marriage and 5 children who remained central to her world. Even at the height of her success, she was constantly working. Life on the Universal Studios Hollywood lot meant long hours and little rest. At one point she even wondered out loud, "How do you get out of this?" A reflection of just how relentless her schedule had become. But that intensity was part of her charm. Leachman had a presence that could win you over instantly, or leave you completely surprised. She could make hearts ache with emotion or have audiences laughing until they cried, often within the same scene. Her unpredictability wasn't a flaw, it was her magic. You never quite knew what she would say or do next, and that made her unforgettable. Born in Des Moines, she grew up far from the bright lights of Hollywood. Yet even as a young girl, her passion for performing was unmistakable. After attending Northwestern University, she took her first serious steps into acting. Her early love for local theater and school productions built the foundation for what would become an extraordinary career. In 1946, she competed in the Miss America pageant, a turning point that helped open doors in entertainment. Soon after, she earned the opportunity to study under Elia Kazan at the prestigious Actors Studio. That training sharpened her craft, leading to her professional film debut in 1948, and from there her journey only gained momentum. She was the eldest of 3 sisters, raised in a family where ambition and creativity quietly thrived. Even as a child, her determination stood out. At just 11 years old, with her mother's encouragement, she traveled to audition for a children's radio program at Drake University, and landed the role. It was an early glimpse of the persistence that would define her life. By her teenage years she was already deeply involved in local theater, nurturing a dream she refused to let fade. A summer drama grant brought her back to Northwestern, where she stood out among her peers and continued to refine her talent. Along the way she shared classrooms with rising performers like Paul Lynde, further shaping her comedic instincts. Her beauty of course never went unnoticed. During her time at the Actors Studio, actress Julie Harris once joked, "If I had your figure, I'd rule the world." It was a compliment wrapped in humor, but it also highlighted the attention Leachman constantly received, attention that sometimes brought challenges of its own. Amid all this, her personal life took shape. Before stepping fully into live television, she found herself asking a life-changing question: should she marry? The man was George England, and their relationship would span nearly 2 decades. It wasn't always smooth, they experienced separations and reconciliations, but it endured. Together they raised 5 children and built a life that, despite its ups and downs, remained meaningful. Years later, Leachman reflected on their bond with honesty and humor. "We'd split up every 10 years for a while," she once said, "but we always found our way back." England, in turn, described their connection in vivid terms, comparing them to a mongoose and a cobra, opposites locked in a strange but lasting balance. It was that mix of passion, unpredictability, and resilience that defined Cloris Leachman, not just as a performer but as a person. A woman who lived boldly, loved deeply, and never stopped surprising the world. Cloris Leachman had her own unique philosophy when it came to marriage, one that perfectly reflected her unconventional spirit. She once suggested that, if possible, husbands and wives should live in separate houses, and if there were children they should have a third space of their own. It sounds unusual, but to Leachman it made perfect sense. At the center of it all was her deep commitment to family. Despite her demanding career, she poured her energy, love, and attention into raising her children, never once regretting the choices she made. As she later reflected during her time at the Actors Studio in New York City, choosing motherhood early in life was something she would always stand by. Her career, however, never slowed down. On stage, she stepped into major productions, even taking over the role of Nellie Forbush in South Pacific. She later brought comeback Little Sheba to Broadway, though she departed before its full run. Opportunities kept coming, including an offer from Katharine Hepburn to perform in As You Like It, a project that, despite its prestige, didn't quite resonate with her. Leachman's work extended far beyond the stage. She built a strong presence in television and film, earning praise for roles like her appearance in Kiss Me Deadly. In one memorable moment, she even filmed a tense scene while pregnant, running down a dark road in a trench coat, a testament to her dedication. She shared the screen with legends like Paul Newman and Lee Marvin in The Rack, further proving her range. But it was her performance in The Last Picture Show that truly changed everything. Directed by Peter Bogdanovich and based on the novel by Larry McMurtry, the film cast her as Ruth Popper, a lonely, emotionally complex woman who forms a controversial relationship with a younger man, played by Timothy Bottoms. Interestingly, the role was initially considered for Ellen Burstyn, but when she chose another part, Bogdanovich turned to Leachman, and even predicted it would win her an Oscar. He was right. Critics were struck by the depth she brought to the role. One reviewer noted that the film's only true warmth came from her performance, describing her portrayal as both bold and deeply human. It was a defining moment, one that cemented her reputation as not just a comedic talent, but a powerful dramatic actress as well. She continued to take on challenging roles, including playing a maternal figure opposite Sybil Shepherd in Daisy Miller. While the film itself received mixed reactions, Leachman's performance stood out, once again earning critical praise. Never one to hold back, she even shared her honest thoughts about the production, reflecting her straightforward and fearless personality. Of course, for many fans, her most iconic role remains Phyllis Lindstrom on The Mary Tyler Moore Show. For 5 years she brought the sharp-tongued, self-absorbed neighbor to life, earning widespread acclaim. Alongside her was Betty White, whose character often clashed with Leachman's on screen. Their dynamic sparked endless curiosity. Were they true friends or quiet rivals? Leachman herself once addressed the speculation with a hint of humor, noting how people assumed they spent time together off-screen. The reality, she suggested, was far less dramatic, and far more professional. And maybe that's what made their connection so compelling. 2 brilliant performers sharing the spotlight, blurring the line between rivalry and respect, leaving audiences to wonder where the performance ended and real life began. When the camera stopped rolling, their paths often went in different directions. Cloris Leachman preferred quiet moments with her family, while Betty White followed her own rhythm. For those who imagine them as inseparable friends, the reality was more nuanced. There was undeniably a competitive edge, an unspoken tension where one's moment in the spotlight could stir something in the other. And yet, when asked about it during a public appearance, Leachman simply said they would look at each other and laugh, as if both understood the strange game they were part of. What bound them together was deeper than rivalry. Both women had spent years navigating the same challenges, building careers in an industry that often underestimated female comedians. That shared experience created a quiet understanding between them, one that didn't always need words. Their story began on The Mary Tyler Moore Show, where their characters, Phyllis Lindstrom and Sue and Nivens, sparked tension on screen. When White joined the show in later seasons, her character's confident charm clashed perfectly with Leachman's sharp, self-centered Phyllis. In one memorable storyline, suspicion and jealousy drove their characters into open conflict, forcing the show's lead to step in and restore order. It was television gold, so convincing that audiences began to wonder if the friction extended beyond the script. Years later, life seemed to imitate art when they reunited in You Again, once again portraying characters who couldn't stand each other. Some even speculated that the film's premise was inspired by their long-rumored rivalry. But beneath it all, there remained mutual respect, something Leachman herself acknowledged in later interviews. Of course, her legacy stretches far beyond that dynamic. Leachman's brilliance shone in countless roles, including her unforgettable performances in films by Mel Brooks, especially Young Frankenstein. As Frau Blucher, she delivered a performance so iconic that even the sound of horses neighing became part of the joke. It was a role that perfectly captured her ability to balance absurdity with precision, earning admiration from audiences and collaborators alike. Brooks himself later praised her as someone who could make you laugh, or move you to tears, in an instant. Off-screen her life was just as rich. Her marriage to George England brought 5 children, some of whom followed her into the entertainment world. During their years in Bel Air, they were said to share a neighborhood with stars like Judy Garland and Sidney Luft. At home, Leachman was remembered as warm, generous and deeply caring, not just to her own children but to others around her. Her friendships also stretched across Hollywood's elite. From her early days at the Actors Studio, she formed close connections with figures like Marlon Brando, relationships that remained meaningful throughout her life. When news of her passing broke, tributes poured in from fans and peers alike. She was remembered as a woman who could light up any room, whose humor felt effortless, and whose presence lingered long after the scene ended. Reflecting on her career, she once joked about awards, saying they should really be called Best Leading Actress in a Supporting Role, a line that perfectly captured her wit and self-awareness. Cloris Leachman's story is one of contrast, laughter and depth, rivalry and respect, fame and authenticity. Whether standing beside Betty White or commanding the screen on her own, she remained unforgettable. And in the end, perhaps that's what truly matters, not the rumors or rivalries but the joy she brought to millions. And if stories like this fascinate you, there's always more waiting to be uncovered.